ICQ Podcast Episode 355, Portable Operations Challenge 2021. Well, hello fellow amateur and radio enthusiasts, and welcome to this our 355th episode of the ICQ Amateur and Radio Podcast. Supported this episode by a very kind bunch of listeners. We're going to start with Steve Murphy, Mike 7, X-Ray Sierra Mike, Frank Westpole, Kilo 6, Foxtrot Whiskey, Nigel Wells, 2 Whiskey 0, Charlie Golf Mike, Grant Porter, Kilo Golf 4, Sierra Delta Romeo, Dina Papas, Kilo Lima 0 Sierra, and Dave Lufkin, Kilo Bravo 3, Juliet Romeo Julio, and of course our monthly and subscription donors. In this episode, Martin M1RB is joined by Leslie, Golf 0, Charlie India Bravo, Dan, Kilo Bravo 6, November Uniform, and Edmund, Mike 0, Mike November Golf, to discuss the latest amateur and radio news. Myself, Colin M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief, and in this episode we feature the Portable Operations Challenge of 2021. Well, as we mentioned, we do the ICQ podcast show for you as a listener-supported show, so we don't take any advertising and keep our impartiality. And we really would like to thank the list of donors coming up now who are supporting us as we enter our 13th year, our 13th birthday being around the middle of July. And I say we really appreciate it. So there's a few people to thank this episode, and I say we are very appreciative to them. So we'd like to thank Steve, Mike 7, X-Ray Sierra Mike, and Steve says thank you for such a great podcast. He's recently passed his foundation license and was introduced to the show by his good friend John Baggett, K2 Bravo Alpha Golf, an Englishman located in Phoenix, Arizona. The podcast has been a great help to him. So Steve, many thanks there, and congratulations on your recent license as a foundation license holder in the UK. So Frank, Kilo 6, Foxtrot Whiskey, says he's enjoying the podcast, and many thanks for supporting us there on our 13th birthday. Nigel, 2 Whiskey 0, Charlie Golf Mike, passed on also birthday wishes and says keep up the good work. Say Nigel, we certainly intend to. Grant, Kilo Golf 4, Sierra Delta Romeo, says thank you for your courage. You're welcome in the morning to Grant. We'll certainly carry on doing what we do for you. Dina Papas, Kilo Lima 0 Sierra, says happy birthday and here's to another great year. So thank you, Dina, for your very much appreciated continued support of the show. Really do appreciate it. And then Dave Lufkin, Kilo Bravo 3, Juliet Romeo Juliet, and he's supporting us on our 13th birthday to the fund. He's been a listener for about a year to the podcast, and it's ICQ is one of his favourite ones. Keep up the great work. We certainly, endeavour to do so. Now, guys, it's fantastic. We get a lot of support around this time of year from our listeners, helping us pay our way and build up a nice base to, pay our bills. So you can visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate, where think of a monetary figure that you find value in the show, convert that, to one of the options, or make up one of your own, and whatever you send our way is always greatly appreciated. So we look forward, to your continued support and keeping the show advert free. Now, there is a little bit of a negative we need to give you a bit of a heads up about. We've come across a website recently that seems to be scraping images of the ICQ podcast webpage and trying to sell those images for about $22 each. Obviously, it's a very much of a scam website, and we just wanted to highlight this to you guys, that you know that it's got, no affiliation at all with the ICQ podcast. The only item that we actually physically sell, other than donations, is a book on Amazon called Thoughts from the Radio Shack, which we published probably about, I think it's 2 years ago now, we published that one. We are working on a second volume, but day job commitments are sort of making that a little bit delayed at the moment. But just wanted to let you know, if you come across a website that is selling anything to do with the ICQ podcast, apart from that book on Amazon, they are no way affiliated to us. We are going to be mentioning about the show's copyright later on in the 73 section at the end of the show, and how you can reshare and distribute the actual podcast itself. But just wanted to let you know, there should be no other avenues where anyone is collecting money, on so-called behalf of the ICQ podcast. Right, well, then we've got that bit of bad news out of the way, let's get on with the more positive side of the show. We're going to join Martin, Leslie, Dan and Edmund to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest amateur and radio news, including Swiss amateurs facing satellite fees and amateur radio twins. As always, we'd appreciate your comments and thoughts. info@icqpodcast.com. As always, guys, hope you enjoy.
Hey, you going to do this thing, the Portable Operations Challenge?
I'm not sure. Don't the big stations always win these things?
No, not this one. They level this all up by how they score the contacts.
Well, I bet the big boys are sweating a bit now.
The little stations have a chance if they're a good operator.
But I'm in. Can we do it anywhere outdoors?
Yeah, that's why it's the Portable Operations Challenge.
Let's just go and show them what the small station can do.
It'll really set the cat amongst the pigeons.
Radio sport on a level playing field, I call that.
Radio sport is about competition, and you've been challenged. See foxmikehotel.com/challenge for details.
Well, hi guys. Welcome to this episode's ICQ podcast, episode 355, and the news round table for episode 355. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Leslie Butterfield G0CIB. Hi, mate.
Good evening, Martin. Great to be on again. What can I say? Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, good to have you, mate. No problems at all. I've also got, moving across the other side of the pond, Mr. Dan Romanchik, KB6NU. Hi, Dan.
Good evening, gents.
Yeah, good to have you as well, Dan. And last but not least, Mr. Edmund Spicer, back here in the UK, M0MMG. Hi, Edmund.
Hello, Martin. Hello, everybody.
Hi, mate. And Ruth did say she was going to try and make this episode, Ruth Willett, but she's at the Youth on the Air camp, which is happening at this very time as we record. So unfortunately, we haven't got Ruth tonight, but she did say she was going to try, if possible, to get some audio for us for another episode. So let's tell us what's going on there. So that'll be a good one.
Just a quick one on that, Martin. I've seen that it's on YouTube as we speak, and some of the things that they've been getting on with is utterly fantastic. It's great. Well done. Yeah,
I saw Ed Durant sent me a video, and he said, hey, try and spot Ruth. And yeah, I did. But yeah, there's a lot going on at that camp. I only wished I was about 40 years younger and living in the States, because I'd have applied to go. But hey, I have to accept it. Yeah, maybe they should do a camp for seniors. I think that'd be a good idea.
Be too many people show up.
Oh well, I'd show up, Dan. I'm sure Frank would. We could take it over, the ICQ seniors turn up. But yeah, all right. Let's see what we got. First news story. Well, I must admit, on reading this, I did wonder whether it was April the 1st. I really don't understand this one. But the Swiss radio amateurs face a fee to use QSO 100. Now, this is the stationary satellite, geostationary satellite. And the Swiss regulator want to charge them £55 for using that satellite. I can't understand it. Leslie, do you want to go first on this one?
Oh, I was looking at the story, and I was flabbergasted, to be honest. I mean, here in the UK, we have, the normal charge for filling out forms is like 30 quid, and but that's sort of for commercial operations. And I'm looking at this, and basically it says that post on the USKA website indicates Ofcom, that's the Swiss version, wishes to protect license-exempt users in 2.4 gigahertz, and Ofcom reserves the right to withdraw the special permits if there's problems. And it gives a list of things that they have to give the authorities, such as the call sign and license number, location, coordinates, antenna gain, antenna height above the ground, direction of the antenna, elevation, email address, and a contact telephone number. And I'm thinking, why is this occurring? And I need more information, but I was just sort of shaking my head in disbelief. I would imagine if that was happening here. I mean, there'd be an outrage. But like I said, I need to find out why the authorities are doing this. But I am shaking my head at it. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, well, as I say, if it had been April the 1st, I'd have thought we'd have been caught. But it's not April the 1st. Dan, what's your thoughts?
Well, I can't see how they're going to actually enforce this. Are there going to be vans roaming around Switzerland looking for 2.4 gigahertz antennas? I just don't. I don't see how they can really enforce it.
Well, the only way they could enforce it was by telling amateurs they can't use those frequencies and then issuing a notice of variation. But in fact, they don't own the satellite. Nowhere else is asking for money for it. And the only person who should be asking for money for using that satellite is the Qatari government, who put the thing up there.
Martin, am I right in thinking that you can listen to that particular satellite online?
You certainly can. Edmund mentioned, and I'm sure he'll tell us more in a minute, there is an SDR receiver at Goonhilly, and you can connect to that and listen to what's going through it. So it's one of those things. Edmund, go on. You know more about this than most of us because you play more with satellite receivers than we do.
Well, not massively, but yes, there is a web-based SDR at Goonhilly in Cornwall, but it only works on receive. You can't transmit through it, and it only works on the voice part of the transponder. You can't use it, or at least the last time I looked at it, which was a while ago now, admittedly, you can't receive the fast scan TV part of it, so you can't watch live fast scan TV pictures. But this is a rather mysterious news story, partly from the point of view of what prompted it in the first place, but also in terms of the questions that they're asking. And also the other strange thing is the financial and administrative burden relative to the amount of demand that there would be for this. So the news story says that the Swiss Ofcom, Office of Communications, wants to charge 70 Swiss francs, which roughly equates to £55, to issue radio amateurs with special permits to transmit up to the Quebec Oscar 100 geostationary satellite. It doesn't say if that payment is a one-off that then covers you for life, or if you have to pay it periodically, every 5 years, every 1 year, whatever it might be, or that it's valid all the time, you don't move house or alter your setup. But leaving that aside, the stated aim or the stated motive for bringing this in is to protect license exempt users in the 2.4 gigahertz ISM, industrial, scientific and medical band. If you're transmitting up to QO 100 and you are interfering with next door's weather station, then that interference won't suddenly disappear just because you've paid a fee. And unless the equipment being interfered with is in your own house or strapped to your fence pretty much, it's highly unlikely that any transmissions from a parabolic dish or a Yagi would interfere with 2.4 gigahertz ISM equipment, because by its very nature, the energy, the RF energy, is being concentrated up in the air. And the bigger the dish, the truer that becomes, because the narrower the bore sight is. So the whole basis of this interference at 2.4 gigs seems highly improbable in the first place. Leaving that aside, some of the questions they've asked are very peculiar as well, because one of them is the direction of the antenna. Well, wherever you are in Europe or beyond, never mind just in Switzerland, the answer to that is going to be 26 degrees east, because it's a geostationary satellite. Elevation of the antenna is going to be pretty much the same, bar a few fractions of a degree, wherever you are in Switzerland. And it also asks for height of the antenna above the ground. Well, again, as long as you have an unobstructed view to the sky, it doesn't matter if your dish is sitting on the floor or on the roof of your house, you're still going to have the same signal going up at the same angle up into the air. So I don't really get what the point of all that is. And last but not least, the financial side of it. Switzerland, I don't actually know what the population is, but I would be surprised if it's over 10 million, because they've got lots of mountains and open spaces and small villages in that country, as I remember. So there's not a large population to begin with. The amateur radio population is only going to be a tiny minority of that. Of those, only a minority will be active on QO 100. So the cost of running the scheme and administering it and collecting the money could end up far outstripping any financial benefit they get from charging Swiss amateurs. And if the main reason for doing this is to have a telephone number on record at which the operator can be reached if needs be whilst the system's in operation, well, there's precedence elsewhere in Europe for a regulator being able to hold a telephone number for somebody on file without charging money for it. And that was when Ofcom administered the notice of variation for 60 metres on 5 megahertz some years ago.
Indeed.
So this whole thing just seems bizarre to me more than anything else. Martin, back to you.
Yeah. I still find it hard to believe. But the other one I spotted, they're talking about a transmitter with a maximum output of 100 watts PEP. You don't use 100 watts to transmit at a satellite. You know, you don't need that much power. The whole thing. I think somebody in the Swiss regulator was having a bad morning when they drafted this. Quite honestly, or it got out by mistake. Maybe it should have been a April Fool. I don't know.
Unless you are using something the size of a Sky mini dish, which is 35 centimetres across, and you're feeding it with RG58 cheap, nasty, thin, fourth-hand coax, unless you're doing that, 10 watts, never mind 100, 10 watts is probably the most you would want to be pushing up there for SSB, and in all likelihood considerably less than that. And if you're using any kind of semi-respectable, decent-sized satellite dish, then considerably less than 10 watts. And we've got to be a bit careful here, because within the last month, it was either AMSAT Germany or the operator of the satellite itself, I can't remember which one it was, one of them issued a statement publicly saying that it had been drawn to their attention that a couple of amateurs somewhere in Europe, presumably, who were unnamed, had been really hammering it on the power. And as a result of that, it had impacted adversely on other users. So please bear that in mind. On any satellite, don't run excessive power, but certainly not on this one, because the last thing I would ever want to happen would be for the people who own and operate the satellite to say, right, that's it, amateurs, we gave them a chance. They hammered our satellite with excess power. We're just pulling the plug completely because they can't be trusted. So please don't do it, folks.
Yeah, good point. And from what I remember, you put a lot of power into a satellite, it tries to match the power coming back out of the satellite, and you'll run the battery out quickly. So, yeah, just be sensible. Right, moving on to our next news story. I like this one.
I thought you did, Martin.
I did, Leslie. Yeah, I like positive stories in amateur radio. But Janet, K0JE, and Janice, K0JA, are ham radio twins. Both the ladies, and I will give their age, but both the ladies are 86 now. And
86 years young.
86 years young, yeah. And I bet they're as sharp as a button because they are amateurs. Dan, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, these two sound like the real deal here. They're not only in the ham radio, they're in the bowling, they're into photography. I mean, they've just done a heck of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and they're electrical engineers. But I know you bowl, Dan. Maybe if you're their part of the world, you could challenge them to a match.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself. I said I'd love to go bowling with them and share a little liquid refreshment while we're there. That's what you do when you're bowling.
Well, as I say, lovely ladies. I think they've done a real good job at promoting our hobby. So, Edmund, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, congratulations to both of them, and their call signs are very close together letters-wise, so I assume back at the time that they were licensed, call signs were issued consecutively, as they used to be in the UK, and I assume these two ladies got their call signs on the same day. So, further proof, if it were needed, that amateur radio keeps your brain active, and it's certainly true that sometimes I can have a very long, tiring day at work where I've been doing quite in-depth and involved calculations, and everything's been going a bit mad and it's been a bit stressy. But when the working day's over, if I then go into amateur radio, even if I'm doing stuff that to the layman might seem quite complicated, it's very noticeable how that can sort of clear and focus and sharpen my mind. And the hobby is so big, I'm never going to run out of things to do, because even if I do ever master CW, if I tick that off the list, I can then move on to the next thing, amateur satellites, and then the next thing after that, fast scan TV, and then the next thing after that, microwaves, and then the next thing after that, 472 kilohertz, and then the next thing after that, etc., 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 and so on. So you'll never run out of things to do, and it's a great stimulant for the mind, isn't it, Martin?
Certainly is, and you didn't mention JT 4,332 or FT 9 million or whatever it is going to be.
Well, give me a chance. I have had my one and only first ever FT8 QSO, or contact, I should say, in 2021. So that's enough for this year. In 2022, I might have another one.
There you go. I wasn't being serious though. Leslie, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, there is a thing from the starttribune.com, and they've got the Minnesota Twin Sisters of Mars. Everything from computers to canoeing. What can I say? It's a great story.
Yeah, and I think they're a real inspiration to people, in the hobby, an inspiration to ladies. And this is not me being sexist. I really do think that going back a few years, they had a harder time than they get now. And I think they've done really, really well. I'm hats off to them. I'm in awe. I'd love to meet the ladies. I think they're really, really done well. So that's a good one.
I'm going to have to email them and tell them they're going to be on our show and arrange a sked with them. They're Morse code operators too.
Yeah. Well, I can't do more, Stan, so it'll have to be you on that one.
I'll take care of that part of it.
Yeah. But lovely ladies, and we'll say I congratulate them for what they've done. Moving on, the FCC have just reaffirmed...
I'm gushing at the teeth on this story, Martin.
Well, the FCC have just reiterated they're going to fine a non-compliant RF equipment. A company called Hobby King was selling drones with out-of-band transmitters on them. So, go on, Leslie, you go for it.
Well, you sort of said the story there. Apparently, these drones do work in the amateur bands, and they also interfere with navigation equipment. Now, it was initiated by the ARRL, who did some of the technical work. And to put it in layman's terms, they gave the shells and the ammunition and the technical knowledge to the FCC to sort of say, here guys, this is what's happening. And hats off to them. As far as the company itself, I'm having difficulty mustering up any sympathy. You can probably gather my views. It's tough. They shouldn't have had this stuff on the market. I can imagine the conversations within the company and saying, yes, well, we're going to make some money selling this stuff, and the technical people being poo-pooed. Well, sorry, that's changed. A nice big fine does tend to change people's minds, I think. So hats off to the ARRL for this and to the FCC for fining them. I think it's the right thing to do, and it will stop this products coming on the market. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah. And I think the biggest problem is, though, and I was saying this earlier, that unless people like ourselves, amateurs, spot these things, in fairness, a lot of government departments have been trimmed down. There's so much technology coming on the market these days. And do they do the tests? Do the people that are testing the equipment actually look for RF compliance? I mean, the classic one, and it's gone in the bin, used to be in Carol's car. She used to have a drop-in charger for a mobile phone. One of these ones where you only put it against the device. And that used to radiate quite nicely on 144,500, which is the calling frequency, 2-meter calling frequency. And every time I got in the car, first thing I did was unplug it. Carol used to get annoyed with me, but there's, that obviously passed through. Dan, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, like Leslie was saying, I think we got to give the ARRL a big pat on the back here, because without that initial work, the FCC probably would not have jumped on this case. We talk sometimes about what reasons to join the ARRL, and I think this is really a good reason right here. I mean, they are looking out for people that are intruding on our bands, and that alone, I think, is probably worth the cost.
I think you're right, and it's not just the ARRL. In fairness, this story is ARRL, but all of the national societies do a very similar job in trying to protect us worldwide.
Right, you're right. I'm speaking just from a U.S.-centric point of view here.
Yeah, no problem. So I wasn't trying to correct you. It's just that I know that the RSGB do it, and I'd be very surprised if other national societies weren't doing a similar thing. But this is an ARRL story, and they should revel in the limelight of this because they did it. So I'm quite pleased, and I'm quite pleased to see the FCC have got some teeth, because $3 million is a big enough fine to certainly wake people up. Edmund, what's your thoughts?
I echo Dan's sentiment there. Join your national society, even if you have 1,000,001 reasons on paper to dislike them and what they do. Join them anyway, because if your national society isn't going to represent you and act on your behalf, then what other organisation is going to do those things? But beyond that, there's nothing I can say that Leslie and Dan between them haven't said already, and a lot more eloquently probably than I would have done, Martin.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that that we've covered this one very quickly, but it is an important one, and if we spot infringements into our band, we should inform our national society and our regulator, because they've only got limited resources themselves, and if it's something interference that's annoying us, we should get it sorted quickly by telling them. And I know in the UK there have been surveys done, tell us what all these problems, and nobody does them. And then they all complain that we've got power line problems, but nobody complained to the regulator about it, that they had them. So the regulator thinks, well, there ain't a problem, is there? So, yeah, we have to do our bit as well as individual amateurs. Right, moving to our last news story. There weren't many news stories this week. Ones we could discuss. Lots of announcements of things happening, but nothing to really discuss apart from the ones we've got today. And the last one was ham radio helping long life hobbyists stay mentally fit in old age. So says the ABC in Western Australia. I don't need to go at length on this one. I'm going to let the boys go. Edmund, you go first on this one. You've not been first this time.
No, but there's not really much I can say without duplicating what I said a couple of news stories back, is there, Martin? So I don't know what to add, my friend.
Yeah, well, I was just say, I think from experience, people look at me a bit strange and go, well, how did you know that? How can you work that out? And amateur radio does keep your brain ticking over. I'll give you this. I mean, I'm not 86 yet, but I hope I get there. Well, this gentleman's 82, rather. Dan, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering if this guy's a CW operator. You know, I like to attribute this kind of thing to CW operation.
Of course.
So I'm going to assume he's a CW operator.
He probably is. Been in amateur radio over 40 years. So he wasn't a youngster starting. He must have been in his 40s when he started. Obviously seen the benefits.
Well, so just take a step back here. That's why I teach a lot of classes. That's why I'm always happy when I get older people in my classes, because they're taking up a hobby that's going to stand them in good stead, and keep them active and keep them doing things. And so I'm always happy when older folks come into my class and say things like, "Oh, I've been wanting to be a ham all my life sometimes, and now they're getting a chance to do it." So it is a good hobby, and it'll keep them going.
Yeah, I think it is. And I know you're a big Morse operator, but I think when they dropped the Morse requirement, we got more people into the hobby. But now, just because you're not made to do it, a lot more people want to do Morse, don't they? So I think they're selling more Morse keys than ever at the moment, because people want to learn it rather than have to.
Right.
So that's what we want. Leslie, final words on this one?
No, I agree with what you've been saying. I mean, it's amateur radio. It's a little bit like push-ups for the brain. It keeps you active. It keeps you involved with things, and that's what's good about it. So it's great. Another good story as well. But I think the thing is that taking it a little bit further, when people leave work or they retire, just stop working is not a good thing, and they sort of carry on with something else. And amateur radio is ideal in that respect.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I mean, when I retired, almost 3 years ago now, I was bored out of my brains at home. Although I had amateur radio and was keeping busy, I think retirement is a horrible thing. And I know there's going to be people spitting blood at me for saying it, but you do have, by being out there, I feel a lot younger. I surprise people, some of the things I know based on amateur radio. So I was talking to a boat owner the other day, and he said to me, "Oh, what's this strange connector? I can't find one in the Chandler." And I looked
I've got one in my box.
Well, I didn't exactly have one, but I knew what it was. It was an M-type connector from his mast. Comes down from his mast, and interestingly, he had a deck connector, which was a double N-type socket that went through the bulkhead, and you plug another N-type on the other side of it. But I knew what it was, and he was, "Oh, you know about this?" I said, "Yeah, that's a standard connector." So, it does happen. Right, well, let's find out what the boys have been up to now we've completed the news stories. Working across my list, Leslie, what have you been up to? Who have you been terrorising?
No. Martin, you should know me better than that. What have I been doing? Not a lot on the amateur radio field, I must admit. But one thing I have been doing is playing with AM on 80 meters. There's a Facebook group which I joined, and when I go up to the club on a Friday night, I put out a call, and I've been getting the odd contacts here and there. Just giving AM a try. And we're running about 25 watts into a broadband dipole from an ICOM 7300, and it's getting out quite well, and I'm very pleased with it. So that's all I've been doing from this end, Martin.
Right. Well, that sounds good. I must admit, I've never done AM. I really ought to, I suppose. Now you're going to get me interested in AM. And I've already got Phil down in Western Australia saying to me, when are you going to finish the last project you started? But no, there's so much going on. I've never done AM. So there you go. Dan, what have you been up to?
Well, still working a lot of CW here. Keeping my 3 contacts per day average up. I did a little bit of the IARU HF championships. Not a lot, but about an hour or so. That was kind of fun. But I'm still playing around with these Raspberry Pi Picos, which has been amusing. I discovered that they have. So let me just step back. So I did a little project with an Arduino that used Adafruit soundboard to make a sound, and that Adafruit soundboard was really a whole complete microcontroller thing in itself, designed to do sound. But with this Raspberry Pico, what you can do is you can stream digital data out of it into a chip called the MAX 98357, and it's kind of like an A to D chip or a D to A chip, but it takes a pulse width modulated input. And I just got these boards a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to hook them up yet. But because the Pico is a much faster processor, you can use that. Like, you couldn't do this with an Arduino because the Arduino couldn't stream fast enough. But the Pico can do this. So you can get by with just a little 1-inch square board with this one chip on it to create sound. So that's what I've been playing with, and it's kind of amusing.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, I haven't done anything with the Raspberry Pi Pico, but I was doing some Raspberry Pi work, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Edmund, what have you been up to?
Not an awful lot, amateur radio-wise. Even though I'm not a sports fan, I have been spending a little bit of time watching the Tour de France coverage on TV, and also some football tournament or other that's been going on in recent weeks. But on the radio front, let's see. I've got a second-hand but mint condition ICOM IC7300, and I was listening to the last episode of the podcast where it was mentioned that a new edition of WSJTX had been released. And it suddenly occurred to me that I had never actually plugged my 7300 into my laptop. So I downloaded the software, went onto YouTube, and there are lots of instructional videos on there specifically tailored to setting up the 7300 and WSJTX to talk to each other. And the upshot was that running 5 watts into a not particularly efficient vertical antenna for 20 meters, quite late one evening, I had my maiden FT8, I don't know if you can say QSO really, contact, let's say, with a station in Russia. I know that FT8 is a weak signal mode rather than a low power mode, but let's face it, life's too long for QRO, so I decided to turn the power down to 5 watts and made that first contact, at which point I thought, that's nice, that's exciting, I've done it now. I unplugged everything, switched everything off and went to bed. So that's my FT8 contact for 2021. I might have a second one in 2022 if I ever get round to it, but as I mentioned earlier, there are so many other exciting things in the world of amateur radio that I haven't done yet. The only other thing is the 10-meter repeater that's gone on the air a few miles down the road from where I live. I've worked several countries through it, Italy, Portugal, France and Germany so far. I've heard Northern Ireland on there a couple of times, but for one reason or another, I haven't been able to get back to them. The weak link in the system, if there is a weak link, is the receive antenna. and the repeater keeper and a couple of other people are working on improving that in the days and the weeks ahead. So hopefully that will help. All of the QSOs I've had so far through GB3CQ, I've been listening to the repeater, but then when the other person has been transmitting, I've been listening on the input. And in all cases, I can actually hear the station I'm talking to better on the input than I can through the repeater. Hopefully that will, as I say, change when the antenna gets upgraded in the near future. But just a little tip there, which is valid for repeaters on all bands, but on 10 meters it's particularly true, I would suggest, given that sporadic E propagation can be extremely localized at times. And on top of that, the antenna that you're using at home could be radically different to the receiver antenna that the repeater's using. So if you're having a QSO on a 10 meter repeater and the station you're talking to is struggling to get in and you're having trouble hearing what he or she is saying through the repeater, slip down 100 kilohertz to the input on 10 meters and you might find that you can actually complete the QSO by listening on the input frequency when the other station is transmitting. But apart from that, Martin, I've done nothing of any note or anything worthy at all. Back to you.
Don't put yourself down. You've done a fair bit. I know you have. And I'm sure you've done walks along the beach with your handy talkies as well, which I find great fun when I get down there. Right, what have I been up to? Well, I decided that I might take my hotspot mobile. And I've been looking at the Raspberry Pi Zero and thinking every time I plug the USB cable into it to give it power, the socket's going to get sloppy. And I thought, as luck would have it, at some point in time, I'm going to use this mobile. I'm going to be driving up the road on a motorway somewhere, and the cable's going to drop out. And I thought, no. So last weekend, I took my MMDVM little hotspot apart, took all the electronics out, drilled a hole in the side of the metal case, put a wire in, and then wired the 5 volts straight onto the board. Now, I wired it onto the MMDVM part of the Raspberry Pi onto the I/O pins, and I wired it on the MMDVM, not the Raspberry Pi, because it was easier to get at. No other reason. And that seems to work well. So now I've got the original USB plug, which is quite sturdy, and that will plug into a USB device and work perfectly okay. But the Raspberry Pi end is now hardwired, so that hopefully is going to be useful. I've also been working on, partly for the ICQ digital project and partly for GB3XP, I've actually now got Windows 10 running on a Raspberry Pi. Now, I know that there are lots of people who have written things on the internet about it, but it is a pig of a job to try and get it shoehorned onto a Raspberry Pi, in my opinion. It's not straightforward. You start doing it and then the instructions seem to peter out, and then you try something else and something else and something else. And building the image is not always reliable. They say if it crashes, just start again. So I've now got a Raspberry Pi that's running Windows 10, and I've installed the Yaesu software HRI 200 interface box. So the software's on the Pi and it hasn't crashed. So I'm hoping that it will work. And at some point in time, I'm going to spend some time with Martin Rothwell and we'll try it out on GB3XP, as well as I'm looking at potentially we might use it for a WiseX connection into the digital talk group we have. Another piece of software Phil Hickenbottom told me about a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me about a piece of software called Ham Clock. I don't know if I've told you guys before. If I have, I apologise. But ham clock, you can run it on a Raspberry Pi, and it is what it says it is. It's a worldwide clock. It comes up and it shows you lots of information. It shows you where the repeaters are, where the beacons are, which beacons are transmitting. It will show you satellite passes. It will show you the time, both ends of your QSO, the weather, both ends of your QSO, pictures of the sun, all sorts of things. Far too many things for me to think of off the top of my head. That's quite an interesting one to have running on a Raspberry Pi. I did also get it running on a Linux desktop, but then when I came to do the upgrade, it didn't like it. So I've got to work out why the upgrade didn't work. But it certainly worked on the Raspberry Pi. It worked, did the upgrade, and away it went again. So that was good. Yeah, I've been playing on the talk group a bit, talking to people on our talk group, obviously 9480. Have done some mobile. Went out with Chris about 2 weeks ago, Chris Howard, M0TCH. And he wanted to test his camper van, and we sat up on Epsom Downs with a mobile whip on the top of his camper van, and I worked into Germany with about 30 watts on a mobile whip. And then afterwards he said to me, oh, let's give 4 meters a try. And he swap the aerials, put 4 meters on, and we sat there and it was quiet, and he said, it's a dead band. I said, hang on a minute, picked up the mic, put a call through it. 30 seconds later, somebody came back to me. I ended up having a 45-minute QSO, which I think Chris would have rather he'd had, but never mind. It worked well. And the last thing is I've got, but I haven't really played with it, and got to work out quite what I'm going to use it for, but I know I've got ideas. Not amateur radio as such, but it might end up at rallies. I bought one of these action cams, little action camera, waterproof container and all those sort of things. And I got it at a very stupid price, and it was well worth the option. So you may see some strange pictures from other events that the ICQ go to. So that's what I've been up to, boys. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. And we'll move on to the next part of the podcast. I'd like to thank Mr. Leslie Butterfield G0CIB.
Thanks for inviting me, Martin.
Cheers, Leslie. I'd like to thank Mr. Dan Romanchik, KB6NU.
Yep, thanks for having me too.
Yeah, great to have you both. And also Mr. Edmund Spicer, M0MMG.
Thanks for having me on, Martin.
It's always fun doing these. Right, I'm going to say 73 to you all, and we'll continue with the podcast. 73, guys.
73.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
Now it's time to have a look at the news in brief with me, Colin, M6BOY. Start with news here that the second QSO Today Virtual Expo ham radio event is only a month away. It's going to take place in the middle of August, weekend of the 14th and 15th. Now, similar to the previous event, lots going on. We've got sort of 100 international amateur radio lumberies providing lectures across 18 different topic areas. So there's something for everybody there. Now, the guys are currently offering an opportunity for a cheaper early bird ticket. It's $10 compared to $12.50 at the door. One of the main attractions on this is obviously with all the talks they're going to have going on, all the tracks going on, so 18 different tracks, including things like antennas and transmission, new license now, what next, build-a-thons, contestings, etc. Is that you get access to all the talks 30 days after the event as well. So well worth, as I say, checking this out for you. As always, we'll put a link to this on the ICQ podcast webpage for you. And as I say, if you want to check out the event, feel free. As I say, the last one there was back in March, I think it was, and there was quite a few hams there. So certainly worth checking out, particularly as we're still awaiting our physical ham fest to come back. It certainly is a great opportunity to get in touch with all your friends, etc. in the virtual world. Back in May, the RSGB ran an amateur radio survey as part of their input into the IARU workshop. Over 1,000 amateurs gave their response, and this has been broken down into views covering the SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunity and threat for both amateur radio currently and in the future. Now, the RSGB have made available the summary of the results, and we'll put a link to that on the ICQ podcast webpage, but it's at rsgb.org/survey. So hopefully I say something of use to you there. The Amateur Radio Digital Communications group will be holding their next community meeting on the 24th of July at 1700 Zulu using Zoom, and it is open to all. Amongst the topics for discussion is grants made to date in 2021, including the first grant made outside the USA, and also questions from the attendees from there. So this is a non-profit organisation that encourages and supports research regarding amateur radio, computer network and related topics. And there are grants already been awarded of $3 million so far this year. So if you want to find out more about this, again, we'll put links on the ICQ podcast webpage for how you get involved in the meeting next weekend, but also as well links to the group if your project may require funding, etc. These guys might be people you can have a chat to about, say, your group and your contest or your group and your project from there. Right, we're going to head over to our features episode, which is a feature looking at this year's Portable Operations Challenge. So as always, guys, hope you enjoy.
And now, what you've all been waiting for, this episode's feature from the ICQ podcast. Well, hi guys, and welcome to this feature for the ICQ podcast. Tonight, I'm going to talk to the guys about the Portable Ops Challenge that's happening later in the year, well, in the next few weeks actually. And I've got three gentlemen with me, two of which you will already know. I have Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Martin. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. Bill is obviously ICQ podcaster. You've heard him many times, but he's involved with this with Frank, and he's also involved with it with Ed Durant, DD5LP. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, hi, Martin. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Now, the one person that you won't recognise as an ICQ presenter, but a lot of you should recognise this gentleman. Gentleman Don Field, G0CIB. Hi, Don.
Well, hello there. And yes, I think I've done a couple of interviews for your podcast in the past, Martin.
You certainly have, Don. And for those of you who've forgotten who Don is, shame on you. Don does a lot of de-expeditions. He's a serious contester. And he's also the editor of Practical Wireless. And equally, a very nice guy. And Don and I have been photographed on more than one occasion, giggling at a rally together. So nice to have you on tonight, Don.
Thanks very much. And you don't have to remind me of the photos.
Yeah, don't worry about them. But we got away with them, I think. Okay. Now, the Portable Operations Challenge, you three are on the steering committee for this, and Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH, it's one of his babies, and we like to promote it. Now, it's kind of a contest, but Ed, tell us what the overall goals are in a couple of minutes of this contest. What are you trying to achieve?
Okay, well, first of all, a little bit of the background. As you said, this was the idea from Frank Howell, K4FMH, and the full name of the challenge is the Fox Mike Hotel Portable Operations Challenge. And it came about, from what Frank tells me, when he was actually working with his own portable operations team, or not his, but the one from the club he's a member of, and looked at what was happening in contesting and the split, if you like, between portable operators that, you know, normally do SOTA or POTA or IOTA, etc., and the true blue superstation contesters and those in between. And he sort of said to the team, couldn't there be some way we could actually get all these people to play together? Because, quite honestly, at the moment, they're enemies, to be put it. He didn't say that, that's my comment. Because, you know, for example, I can't go out on a weekend when there's a contest on to go on a SOTA Summit because I can't get on the bands. But the theme is, can we not make a contest where the through using handicapping as you would in golf, we can make it more level so that it's an equal challenge for the small contest operator, for the club contest team with the tents and the generator, and for the normal home stations and the super stations to compete together in a contest. The name given is the Portable Operations Challenge, and a lot of people have said to me, I don't do portable operations. But I think we missed something there in so much as this isn't just for the portable operators. It's for the home stations as well and the contest stations that, we can hopefully find some way of balancing out through the scoring and making an equal challenge for all of the people that wish to compete. It's an international contest. This is the second year. We've already changed some things, or should I say the steering committee, which is 15 people, pretty well equally divided in various areas of amateur radio. The idea is hopefully year on year we'll get this scoring better, so it's better balanced. Last year, unfortunately, we had no base stations, no home stations taking part, which was a disappointment. And I think that's something that we are hoping to change this year. We've already got a few people lined up that have said they're going to take part from home, and still a lot more that are going to be on portable. But, some of the advertising that's been put out there by Frank as well has said this is a challenge for everybody to take part in, and hopefully that will be the case. The actual contest takes place on September the 4th and 5th. And it's this year we've changed it. Last year we had a rolling 8 hours, so that within 48 hours you could choose the best 8 hours for yourself for the propagation for where you are in the world. For example, that's a different time in Australia than in India or than in the US or from Europe. But that didn't work out. So this time we're going to a bit more standard layout, which is 3 4-hour sprint contests. The first one, or the first session, if you like, of the overall contest is from 0800 UTC to 11:59 on the 4th of September. The second sprint is 1600 to 19:59, also on September 4th. And the third is from 0000 to 03:59 on September the 5th. Each of those sprints will be scored as a separate contest. So you can enter that and you can come, win or top 10 or whatever in each of the sprints. Plus, for the overall winner, the scores from all 3 sprints will be added together. But that doesn't mean somebody has to enter all 3. They can enter just one. For example, one of those sprints, everywhere in the world, one of those sprints is in the middle of the night. So a single portable operator is probably not going to be in a park at that time because the park's closed or because it's unsafe. So some people are going to be entering 1, some people entering 2 sprints, and some people entering 3. And we'll see how all that works out. Anyway, I'm taking over the show here, so back to you, Martin.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell the people everything and not leave the other guys anything to say. No problems. So, Don, as a big-time contester and, been doing this for some time, what do you think is the best way for, say, a QRP station to try and maximise the number of points? How's the scoring system going to really help them, and how do you see it happening?
Yeah, okay. Well, we spend a lot of time thinking about the scoring system. We thought about people giving some information during the QSO that would help with the scoring, and they decided that was just too much of a hassle. We've kept the contest exchange simple. It's a signal report and just the QRA locator, a 4-digit QRA locator, which incidentally is supported, of course, by FT8. So we're hoping people will try FT8 as their data mode. But the scoring then will be determined by your power level, by whether you're out portable, and that will all be taken care of in the adjudication. But it does mean, as in any contest, that if you look at the rules beforehand, you decide for yourself what your strategy is going to be. So some people might decide they're going to deliberately run QRP because they're going to get more points from doing that. And that's absolutely fantastic if they want to do that. I should also say that in terms of deciding which of the sessions perhaps to enter to maximize your score, that the IARU and RSGB SSB field day take place that same weekend. And there will be lots of portable stations out for that from, I think, 1500 UTC on the Saturday. So you may choose the session that overlaps with that in order to work lots of portable stations. That's, again, all part of the strategy, and we hope people will think long and hard and then go for it once they've decided which section to enter. And as I say, they don't need to worry about the scoring. That's the nice thing these days with any contest. You just send in your contest log and let the computer and the adjudicator sort it all out for you.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And what I was thinking about, because you were talking about other contests that were happening over that time period, if I'm on the graveyard shift on the UK SSB Field Day contest, I mean, normally we're scrolling up and down the band, we're finding one station every now and again. If there's a different contest going on at the same time, like the Portal Ops Challenge, that's going to just make it so much more interesting, because hopefully there will be other people to work. So I'm thinking that's quite a good one, Don. I don't know what you think on that one.
Yeah, I do think that. Funnily enough, for the CW Field Day this year, there was a Tesla contest operating from, being run by the Hungarians. And they refused to work portable stations, which was ridiculous because they could have had additional points. And so maybe they were thinking that they could only work stations who were taking part in their own contest. But the general rule with amateur radio contesting is you don't have to do that. You can take part in any of the contests that are going on. And the only thing a field day station would ideally need to do if he's working one of the portable ops stations is to add the QRA locator, which hopefully they'll know. If they don't, well, not too bad. You know, they'll make the contact anyway, and I guess we'll try and take care of it in the scoring.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Bill, I asked the stupid question before we started recording of why only 4-digit mainnet locators? You know, wouldn't it be better 6? And was told, it's an HF contest. So I apologise for that. But the scoring looks quite interesting. You guys obviously done quite a good job there.
Yeah, we got a little bit of feedback and had a lot of discussions on email about how we can make the contest better. One of the things we came up with was going to the 4-character mainnet grid square locator as the exchange and really simplifying things. Likewise, we also did the scoring algorithms a little different this year. So we're assuming that a lot of people are going to do digital, since FT4 and FT8 will be an option this year. So each one of those QSOs will get you 2 points. You get out the keyer and you go to town with some CW and Morris, you're going to get 3 points a QSO. And if you're doing some SSB, which the bands are a lot better than we predicted when we picked the number, but we're now giving you 4 points for sideband QSOs. Likewise, if you're a home station, we're calling you fixed or a super station. So if you contact another fixed station, we're going to give you two points for that QSO. Home station to a portable station is going to be 3 points. Portable stations working the home stations are going to be 3 points. And portable is going to be 4 points. That way we give a little nuance there so that the folks out in the field have a level or playing field. Likewise, we do the kilometer per watt multiplier, and that's based on the center of each grids divided by the power used with each contact. Once again, you know, the QRP stations, you're going to get a lot more kilometers per watt multiplier there. And finally, we do talk about transmitters. We're predicting most folks are going to be one transmitter, so we're just going to multiply everything by 4. There will be some folks that will do 2 transmitters. They'll get 2 points or two times multiplier there. And 3 or more transmitters, to however many you want to run, will give you 1 multiplier. And then the idea behind that is exactly for the clubs doing the SSB field day. They got 6 transmitters going, and they're working the SSB field day, and they turn around and pick up a few folks that are doing a portable ops challenge during the windows. They're still going to get good points for their QSOs for those contacts. So we highly encourage folks to work everybody you can, work them as often as you can.
If I can just jump in there on the last example you gave there, Bill. If we have a station that's in, let's say, the IARU field day or the SSB field day in the RSGB, and they've got 6 stations or 6 transmitters, but they only use one of those transmitters to make a few contacts in the Portable Ops Challenge, they're classified as one transmitter station and will get the maximum multiplier. It's a matter of the number of contiguously in use in our contest that decides the number that goes in there. So, people need to have a look at this and read the documents. There are actually some helpful documents on the website that have just been uploaded because I just updated them a couple of days ago. One of them is entitled How Do I Compete Best in the FMH Portable Operations Challenge? That's Fox Mike Hotel Portable Operations Challenge. That covers a lot of the points where, in the planning stage, you probably want to read that and work out what's best for you. There's also a quick document that says what is the Portable Operations Challenge, but hopefully from this interview you'll get most of that. And I've also written a user's guide. So on the website is Fox Mike Hotel, written out in full, FOXMIKEHOTEL.com. Just go there and then click the POC button, and you'll have various options underneath that to see the rules, to see these helpful documents, and definitely worth having a look before you start. Nothing's that complicated, but the only thing that probably is complicated is the scoring, because it's completely different to what anybody's done before. But it's all documented there for everybody, and it's all up to date in line with the rules for this year with the changes. And people often ask me as well, what logging programs can I use? And there we have 3 possible logging programs. The famous, well-known one is N1MM+, but also N3FJP is supporting the Portable Operations Challenge as well. And quite honestly, my favourite is the Australian VKCL, VK Contest Logger. That is a very, very simple program to use that anybody who hasn't used a logging program previously will be able to use without a training course. So the experienced contesters love N1MM or N3FJP, and they're used to that. They can use them for the POC. Others that are only starting, then I would actually recommend VKCL. All that detail is also on the website.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ed. Well, I was going to bring you in and ask you most of those, but you've just given me the answers straight away, so that's good news. Don, I'm going to throw one to you. So, at the end of this, we're obviously going to announce the winners. Do they get certificates? How is that going up on the Fox Mike Hotel website, the results? How are we going to do the results?
I wish you hadn't asked me that one. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that. Yes, of course there'll be certificates, and yes, the results will be on the website. We have somebody lined up to do the adjudication, but I think that there are actually some prizes that have been sponsored, and I'm not au fait, I have to say, with what they are. Ed or Bill are probably better qualified to answer that than I am.
Right, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there because, in fairness, if there's 15 of you working on this in the committee, then this is not a flash in the pan contest. This is a serious contest to bring enjoyment to other radio amateurs. And I'm sure some wallpaper. I know, Bill, you like collecting certificate, but good on you guys. So, Bill, I'm going to ask you the other question I have written down while I was thinking. I would have asked Ed, but I think I'm going to share this around a little bit. Ed mentioned that you could run a contest within a contest. And last year, although most of the podcast presenters were supposed to take part, Edmund won the ICQ part of contest because we had a little sub-contest running for which ICQ presenter got the most contacts, didn't we? So, Bill, something better this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more options for local organizations and clubs to do. I call them overlay contests, but that's like a contest inside a contest. Which club member did the best, and then that organization is going to take care of it. We actually talked Ed into managing that this year, so I'm going to pass over him for more details.
Yeah, to be honest on that one, that was my idea, and the steering committee gave me permission to run with it. That means I'm running it, as in all the donkey work behind the scenes. I've only got myself to blame. Just coming back on the awards, because that wasn't really answered so well, there's going to be a winner for each of the sprints, and there's going to be an overall winner, and there's going to be a distance award. And at the moment, I think we're talking about plaques rather than just certificates, but this will all be clarified. Frank would have been the best person to answer that. As for actual prizes, last year there were actual physical prizes. I do not know, and I don't think any of the three of us know what the status of that is at the moment, but it will be posted on the website when any decision on that's made. But certainly plaques for the winners of each of the sprints, and the overall winner is my understanding, and the distance winner. That's the person that actually managed the maximum distance for the lowest power. So the whole scoring system starts off with how many kilometers per watt you got. So it's very much angled on that, and then all the multipliers, not extra points per contact, but the multipliers per contact, the way that Bill explained. The idea that I had and was approved by the steering committee is that as we are doing all this work, why can't other people take benefit from it? So we've got a committee that's deciding on the rules, maintaining the rules, doing the scoring, accepting the log, validating, and producing then a public table. If people want an example of that, the 2020 logs are up on the website. You can have a look what you get out of there. It's just the list and the points for each of the entrants. Last year it was one contest, so this year it'll be 3 lots of results for each of the sprints. Given that all that IT work and legwork has been done, if we have a group, let's say, for example, the News West organisation, who run a news broadcast about amateur radio in Western Australia, that actually want to have their own contest for people that live in VK6 land. They can do that. They send through, and they are doing that. This is one of the ones, alongside ICQ podcast and some others, that is doing that, and have announced it on their broadcast this weekend. The people there don't have a lot to do. All they have to do is say, okay, we're going to do this. And then they publicise in their own area, please enter the full POC contest as a normal user. Enter simply means sending the login, by the way. You don't have to register to take part in the Portable Operations Challenge. Just take part and send your login when you've finished. Then, if you're in there, you may come 35th overall or 48th overall. But because you've also said, or in this case, the example of VK6, because your call sign starts with VK6, you might come 3rd or 2nd or 1st within VK6. The people at News West, in this example, will actually take the publicly published list of results and go through and filter out the VK6 people, and then they will announce through their social media channels who in their region came where. So automatically they've got their own contest without having to do anything other than promote people to take part in the Portable Operations Challenge, which is where we benefit, of course, because we want more people taking part. And at the end of the day, that group can be, as an example I gave, is a complete state. It can be a radio club, and in that case, those who wish to take part need to go to their organizer and say, pull my call sign out of the results and let me know where I've come in our club contest. That is a parallel contest, regional contest, whatever you want to call it, using the Portable Operations Challenge as a way of taking care of rules and scoring.
Okay, one last thing from me, probably a little bit of tongue in cheek. Do you have a wooden spoon award? You know, because I'm a terrible operator. I could win that one, maybe, Ed.
Well, I would have won it last year.
Oh no, sorry. That was a flippant remark, and I should.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a good idea. And in the localized contests, so these parallel contests, not the main contest, there's nothing to stop people doing that. I mean, if that's something, and especially in a radio club, the funny side of it's got to be fun. It's all got to be fun, and it's a way of a club or a state or a group having fun without having to do all the work.
Certainly is. Right, well, I'm just going to recap before I close up on this one, because I think we've given guys a lot of information to think about. The date, September the 4th and the 5th of 2021. All the information is on the website foxmikehotel.com/challenge. There are 3 sessions, and it's all up on the website, so I'm not going to read them out again. Bands, 80 metres, 20 metres, 15 metres and 10 metres. Your modes, CW phone, which is SSB, and digital modes are all permitted. All you have to do is exchange your call sign, obviously, and your 4-digit Maidenhead locator, and then submit your log to the Portable Ops Challenge, and away you go. Any last?
Just quickly there, you missed 40 metres, Martin.
Did I?
All the HF contest bands, right, is what it is. So 80 through 10 contest bands only. And the other thing is the submission of the logs from some of the login programs is just a matter of clicking a button and it even sends it for you, or it can be sent via email, but it has to be in Cabrillo format that these 3 logging programs I talked about produce automatically anyway. No paper logs.
Well, there you go. So I think that's pretty much given everybody a good flavour of what this Portable Ops Challenge is about. Please check out the website, obviously, and hopefully, if you win it and you want to come and talk to us on the podcast, I'm sure that Ed, Bill, or myself would be more than pleased to chat to you about how you did and what happened. So I'd like to thank the guys who are joining me tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Don Field, G0CIB. Thanks, Don.
My pleasure.
And good to hear from you again, and we must get you back more often. I'd like to thank Mr. Ed Rant, DD5LP.
Very welcome, as always.
Magic Ed. And last but not least, Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B.
Yes, thank you very much. And remember, everybody, CQ Contest, CQ Portable Operators Challenge.
There you go. Well, that's it. Okay, 73 guys, and we'll carry on with the podcast.
The ICQ Amateur Ham Radio Podcast, serving the amateur ham radio community fortnightly since 2008.
Well, everybody, I really hope now, following on from our feature, that you'll put the date for the Portable Operations Challenge into your diary and enjoy that event, which is the second event of the Portable Operations Challenge after the success of running the inaugural one last year. So best luck with the boys and everyone who enters, and as I'm sure everyone who takes part in that event will have a great time. Well, Dad, I suppose the one thing we wanted to talk about in this part of the show is some feedback we've had recently in relation to rebroadcasting the ICQ podcast and our copyright. So I'll pick up the copyright side of it because that's the bit that I do, and then I'll let you talk about the rebroadcasting side. So just to clarify to everybody, is our show is covered for copyright under what's called Creative Commons, and we're very, very straightforward about it. As long as you share the show in its entirety without any edits, etc., you can republish it, rebroadcast it, do pretty much whatever you like with the show. We don't, we don't restrict what people do with the whole show. This is one of the massive benefits of being a listener-supported show because we don't have to worry about sort of advertising views and stuff along those lines. We're quite happy for the show to be shared in any way, in any format possible. However, you still have to take into account, obviously, the legalities in your region. So I know that we talk about sometimes about the show being rebroadcast on repeaters in places like Australia, etc. But in the UK, that's not possible. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, to my knowledge, only the RSGB are allowed to broadcast on amateur radio frequencies in the UK, and that is for the RSGB news on a Sunday. And they have a number of frequencies they've agreed with Ofcom. Outside of that, if you rebroadcast the ICQ podcast on amateur frequencies, you're contravening your license. I am aware that there is an amateur who is rebroadcasting the ICQ podcast. And as much as it's very nice for us and very flattering, don't lose your license. The thing being is, if you are the person doing this, it's not us that are going to lose our equipment. We make it freely available for you to listen to. As Colin says, your license does not allow you to be a broadcast station. So please don't get Ofcom to come round your house and take all your radio gear off you, because you will cost you a lot of money and you will lose your license. So in the nicest possible way, you're obviously a listener because you download our podcast. We do care about all of our listeners, but please, if you're doing something wrong, you're not helping us by doing something wrong. You're putting yourself in danger of losing all your gear and having a big fine and potentially losing your license. So that's where we are on that one, I think, Colin. You cannot, or you should not, broadcast in the UK on amateur radio frequencies. If one of the major broadcast companies came to us, and it's unlikely the BBC, but one of the third-party community stations come to us and say, can we run it? Yes, the answer would be yes, because they would fall into your copyright, Colin, because they'd have the right to broadcast. And as long as they follow our copyrights, we're happy.
Yeah, so just to clarify, guys, as if you rebroadcast on radio gear, obviously check your licensing requirements in the country that you're living in. But in relation to copying to memory sticks, links in club newsletters, embedding us on your own website, etc., no problems to workaways. As long as you say you republish it in entirety, you don't even have to ask permission. Our copyright agreement basically says you can do that anyway straight away. So yeah, if anyone's got any queries on that, feel free to drop me a line at info@icqpodcast.com, and I'll certainly clarify any questions you got on that. But pretty much say, yeah, if you reshare in its entirety, we're happy enough. I say our main concern is the fact you're going to lose your equipment or your license if you get involved in something else from there. Right, okay, so we got that. So unfortunately, guys, we had to cover that one, but I say we thought we'd obviously mention it to everybody, what was going on there. And then we did mention as well at the start of the show as well in relation to a website we've now found that is selling what looks like our images on the web. Obviously, as you guys all know, we are a listener-supported show, and about the only thing we physically have for sale is the book Thoughts on the Radio Shack, which is on Amazon, and obviously we suggest you buy that directly. I think, believe it or not, they are selling, this website's trying to say the image of the book cover for something like $22, even though the book only costs you $1 on Amazon. So yeah, very, very weird what's happening there, but obviously we're just giving you a heads up of what we found. Well, now talking about our very kind supporters, I wanted to thank Steve Murphy, Mike 7, X-Ray Sierra Mike, Frank Westpole, Kilo 6, Foxtrot Whiskey, Nigel Wells, 2 Whiskey 0, Charlie Golf Mike, Grant Porter, Kilo Golf 4, Sierra Delta Romeo, Dino Papas, Kilo Lima 0 Sierra, and Dave Lufkin, Kilo Bravo 3, Juliet Romeo Juliet, for supporting us for our birthday at this episode of the ICQ podcast. Thank you very much for your donations. You can do what those guys did and our monthly subscription donors by visiting icqpodcast.com/donate. Where say whatever value you find our show, choose one of the monetary options or come up with one of your own and pop it our way and say it keeps us paying our way and keeps us advert free, as to say. Now, Dad, I know you got a couple of things to mention from earlier on the show, a couple of things just wanting to pick up in relation to thanking a colleague of ours.
Yeah, certainly have, Colin. And when you're doing these podcasts and you're recording, sometimes the brain and the mouth don't fully mesh. Put it that way. I think I mentioned that the UK calling frequency is 144.5 megahertz. No, it's not for FM. It's 145.5 for 145.5 megahertz in the UK. And I mentioned our colleague Phil down in Australia didn't give his call sign, which is VK6ADF. So Phil, often to be found on the ICQ podcast talk group as well. So, there's a couple of corrections, Colin.
No problems at all. Well, thankfully, there are people that are more lucid than us that join us on this show. So we're going to thank some people who helped us bring this show together. So our feature, which included Ed, DD5 Lima Papa, Bill Barnes, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, as ICQ presenters are involved in the Portal Ops Challenge. And thanks for Don Field, Golf 3 X-Ray Tango for, as I join you and talking about the Portal Ops Challenge that's taking place later on this year. And of course, the news roundtable: Leslie, Golf 0, Charlie India Bravo, Dan, Kilo Bravo 6, November Uniform, and Edmund, Mike 0, Mike November Golf. Thanks, guys, for taking part there in the news roundtable. All right, well, but hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed this episode of the ICQ podcast, episode 355. As I say, now the ICQ podcast is a teenager now, 13 years old. As I say, we'll be making sure, as I say, we keep this little baby of ours under control. That's going to become a stroppy teenager, and make sure that, as I say, we're all back together again in a fortnight's time to do your next show for you. So I say that'll be, of course, episode 356, and as I say, we'll be back then. So I think that just about wraps up everything, apart from obviously, of course, making Mrs. B a cup of tea and finding a chocolate biscuit. So I better let you head off and do that, and wish everybody 73s.
Yeah, will do, Colin. I'm going to make Mrs. B a nice cup of tea shortly, find that chocolate biscuit, and then we're going to put our feet up for a few minutes and enjoy our cup of tea. So I say 73s to you, Colin, and 73s to all our listeners.
Wonderful. 73s all. Catch you on a fortnight's time. Bye-bye.